I don't know how I ended up on the female side of TikTok, but I did, and went through a dozen videos of women being very upset that their little girls were being told to dress modestly at school. And every single woman said the same statement. Instead of teaching our daughters to dress modestly, why don't you teach your sons not to grape? And I'm sorry to say, but that's not how that works. At no point in time did my father ever sit me down and say, son, don't grape a woman. You know why? Because if you do that, no amount of teaching is going to get you to stop. There's something wrong up here. So teaching your son not to grape is a dumb statement because it doesn't work.
I don't ever discuss my credentials in videos because I hate a fucking pedantic, but for the point of clarity, power, and understanding, correct information and facts compared to your feelings in misinformed video, let me establish who actually has the right to talk on this. I have a PhD in sexology. I also am a researcher and an analyst. I also am a clinical psychotherapist. I also personally rewrote the sexual health educational system statewide, nationally, and internationally for years. So just so we're clear, I'm the only one in this conversation who knows what the fuck I'm talking about. If you teach consent to boys while they are young, if there is comprehensive, inclusive sexual health education, either in the schools or in the homes, sexual assault rates drop by what has been documented, 39%. Sexual rape is reduced by almost 50%. In areas where you're talking about sexual harassment and different variations of sexual assault, verbal, emotional, all those other ways, and there's a myriad of different ways other than just being black and white, where there is sexual assault present, up to 80% decline when you teach young boys about consent. And why don't we teach comprehensive sexual health around our country? Because of Republicans. Because they refuse to allow comprehensive, inclusive sexual health in school systems, because of lobbying and all this other shit, and because of ignorance, and here, also because of pathology. So people, well, if you teach them, they're going to do it. No, statistically wrong. If you teach a child about this, they are more probability to not do it. And if they do it, they will be much more mindful about what they do about it. Comparative to if you don't teach the child, they are more likely to do it and then have a whole bunch of issues regarding that, including assault of others and assault of themselves. So then tell me, why does the Republican Party, the pedophile protectors, not want education of children in order to protect them from being abused? Because increase in education decreases abuse and grooming. So if we decrease education, then you increase victimization. Fucking wonderful. Oh, but they're going to teach them to be gay. No, they're going to teach them that what daddy or stepdad or the pastor or that other guy or the uncle or any of those people, what they're doing is absolutely wrong and they should be reported. Cue the global pedophile Epstein ring. Now, let's play your second clip where a woman was angry to your video about this, where you were telling women that men should teach their sons how to have consent. And instead of you understanding or having an open mind, you decided to make the topic about single mothers and violence and give other incorrect data. Ready?
Ma'am, just so you know, I will not delete this unless TikTok does. I do not believe in deleting comments, no matter how horrible they are. And for you to say that to me means that you do not know the facts. Statistically, I'm not saying you're a bad mom. I'm not saying all single moms. That's not what I'm saying. And this is an emotional statement from somebody who's just typing from emotion. Statistically speaking, it doesn't matter how many women you know, trust me, you may know a dozen. But out of the hundreds of thousands of single women, that number might be a little high, I don't know, but easily tens of thousands. Single women, statistically, most raise terrible men. Most men go to prison raised by single women. This isn't even up for debate. This is not an insult. This is, statistically speaking, from every metric you look, I don't care what statistic you look at, they all say the same thing. Single women are the worst. Women and women are second. Men and men are third. And men and women in a marriage raise the best. Like, that's just the way it is.
I don't know what kind of Jehovah's Witness fucking pamphlet you decided to get these stats from, but you're fucking wrong. Also, you're a misogynistic prick for saying stuff like, she's just talking out of emotions, but I'm not. Yes, you are. Okay. She was talking out of emotions because she was very triggered about your whole blaming rape on women video and women how they dress. Okay. So she's allowed to be pissed about that. Then you decided to take that in the whole conversation and then blame single women, which is also irrelevant to the rape conversation. Blame single women for the violence. But here's how it's a difference. Stats would say something like, well, if you look at incarceration rates of the most amount of men that are incarcerated within these certain demographics and these type of areas, would come from a single mother household. And then the variance would be, you didn't say any of that. You said single women, bad women, raise bad men. Those are fucking feelings. Now let's talk actual facts. So it's much more nuanced. You can't just say single women raise bad men. What the fuck? And also put it through your head. Okay. You didn't. What's missing from the fucking calculation? Men that are incarcerated or violent are not violent because the mother is single. The statistical research shows the absence of the father, it's the fucking dad's not being there that causes a lot of the violence. Men are to blame for that, okay? But I don't know if you're like, oh, fucking, yes, right. Men are to blame for that. But then the other factors where a man isn't to blame for that or responsible for that are single women work multiple jobs without the ability, the financial ability, in order to have people to help raise the children outside of areas of school, and maybe if they have a simple caregiver around them, a grandma or something. But outside of that, they don't have the capacity to be there to do conscious parenting because they're working their ass off because of that deadbeat piece of shit. Then you add in the financial strain of single women, and they're more likely to live in areas where there's higher crime rates. So then those children who are neglected because the mother is working in order to survive and do not have a father because he's a fucking loser, right? Let me stand on that. That's a feeling. He's a fucking loser compared to a stat. Is those children are then raised by other people in the community who are violent. Don't even get me fucking started about economics and macroeconomics and how in those areas the educational systems are absolutely intentionally underfunded in order to make sure that those children are undereducated and also don't have enough food and sources in those areas, other resources as well. So if you have a child that's neglected at home or being raised in dangerous areas because the mother's working her ass off in order to just make sure that they can survive, and then they're raised around crime and then go to school where they don't have enough resources that the teacher can even teach about, or the information that they have is undereducated other areas, affluent white areas, right? Then what are you having? You're setting up an entire system where children must forcefully choose between how they survive because thriving seems impossible. Which is why in these areas they will build prisons closer to those areas, because they know if that child can't read at a certain level by third grade, that child has a higher probability of being incarcerated. And who makes money off of incarceration? Why don't you fucking tell me? Ask the party you voted for. Now, let me blow up the bullshit in the middle of your argument. You said the second are lesbians. Third, gay men, women and women. Third, gay men. And then the fourth, best children ever, straight men and straight women. I don't know where the fuck, this is how I know it was some religious bullshit, or I don't know, some MAGA fucking like Truth Social garbage. That is not accurate internationally at all. So there is not enough statistical data in our country to even back any of that stuff in the middle, because there's not enough research for LGBTQIA. Why? Because of fucking Republicans, because God forbid we have actual research and then we out all those motherfuckers and what they're doing on Grindr and Sniffies. But nevertheless, right? Let's talk about that convention that happened. Anyways, so the reason why I know those are wrong is because internationally, remember, I'm the only one that knows what I'm talking about in this conversation. Internationally, if you look at places that do value LGBTQ families and they do research on there, statistically, here's stats, buddy. Statistically, same-sex couples that raise children, those children have higher probabilities of emotional, financial, and physical well-being than straight raised couples. Okay, it's minimal in terms of what you're looking at, 1.4 to potentially some places saying 14%, but I remember that because of that. But let's say 1.4 to 1.7% increase if they are raised with a same-sex couple. So the statistics actually say that it's the opposite. If you have a same-sex parent, it's all about conscious parenting, right? Those children are more likely to succeed than straight parents. Now, if you want to look in the probability of why men are the most violent creatures in this world, and you look at their abuse patterns, who is more likely to abuse the child, the mother or the father? So again, we're going to hold up a mirror of accountability. Your statistical data is wrong and you don't realize the truth is screaming in your face. Men are the origin of the pathology in the world because they're unwilling to unpack the pathology. So they keep recirculating it generation from generation. Women are sitting here saying, please men, talk to your sons about how to have consent, how to understand autonomy, how to be respectful. And then men are saying, no, we're not the problem, you're the problem. Sir, take a look in the mirror before you make content. I understand around your kitchen table, you either have people you don't have anyone to talk to, or you have people that don't give a shit what you have to say, and you decided to start making content. But in this world, you will be held accountable for what you are saying, virtually and probably physically, if your content keeps being ridiculous like this, because what you are saying is more implying harm than ever any good. And regardless of your intentions, your first video was intentional, where you went into a female space where they were discussing sexual assault and then blamed women for it. And then when a woman said, this is unacceptable, you decided to then blame women even more, saying, well, you're the reason, the single mothers are the problem, without even fucking recognizing that all the areas of abuse and everything are the origins of the men within the life, or the neglect and abandonment of the men in the life. It's screaming in your face. Nevertheless, this is what it looks like when accountability arrives. And sir, you don't follow me, and I'm sure you wouldn't understand this or like the way that this feels, but accountability feels like oppression to men that are used to being entitled, privileged, or abusive. Wear it.